Barbell back squat. We have quite a few different little tidbits that we need to include in this exercise. But first, let's start off by talking about creating the shelf. And what I mean by creating the shelf is we are creating a shelf on our upper back for the barbell to sit on. Now, what you'll see a lot is people tend to want to put the barbell on their neck when they're positioning the bar. We don't want to do that. That's going to put a lot of stress and strain on the cervical spine. So what will cue them is to actually pull their shoulder blades together in this positioning so that way they can get really, really tight in their upper back. After they have created that nice tight upper back and creating that shelf, then we'll end up loading up the barbell onto their back. So I'm going to actually have you bring the camera here so you can see my back side, just so you can see how I position the barbell on my back. When we're cueing a ninja on their hand positioning, we're generally going to be right outside of shoulder width. Sometimes that might vary in terms of like the tightness in their shoulder if they're super mobile, but for the most part, we'll tell them to put their thumb right where those ridges are and to stretch their hands across and then grip the barbell. So that'd be the same thing on both sides of that bar. Now granted, our bars work like that because we know exactly where the ridges are, but there's some barbells where their ridges are in different positions, but it's generally going to be right outside of shoulder width. So once we have our hands right outside of shoulder width, we are then going to create that shelf, right? So remember, we're pulling the elbows together and getting our back nice and tight. Now hands, you can either go thumb over hand or you can bring the thumb under hand. For me personally, I find it more comfortable to have my thumb over, but others might find it totally fine to be here. We just want to make sure that they're not hyperextended if they're gripping the barbell with their thumb. So I'll kind of throw that out there. But we'll go shoulder width apart, creating the shelf. Now we don't want that barbell to sit on the upper neck, right? We want to bring it down and actually place the barbell on that upper back, right where we feel that tightness in our back. Okay, so that's where the barbell will actually sit. Now, I'm going to have you get me in a side shot again, because I'm going to show you how we want the bar to look when we're going for that squat. So with your traditional goblet squat, torso tends to be a little bit more upright. With the barbell back squat, we might have a little bit of a forward torso lean, but what we're aiming for when we're going for that squat is for the bar path or the line of the bar path. If there was a marker here at the tip of your bar, when that bar is going up and down, you kind of want it to keep a nice straight line as it's going up and down. So none of this forward movement of the bar. That means that our body is shifting and not sitting correctly, or we might be too upright, or we might be too far forward when we're doing that squat. So we've already created that shelf, put that barbell on our back, we break away. When we're walking away from the rig, we don't want them to do like a salsa dance to try and find their spot. We want them to actually think about just taking one step back and getting into their position, right? Because we don't want, if we're really loading up this bar, we don't want them to spend too much time trying to get jiggy on the floor. So one nice solid step back. Now going down for that squat, we'll go down and notice how I have a little bit of a forward torso lean when I'm going for that squat, and then coming right back out of it. Again, if that bar starts to go forward and then come out, that's when you'll start to notice the bar has like more of a squiggly line, but we want that bar to go straight down and then right back up when going for the squat. And then another thing that we might cue people when doing that back squat is not to be up here, like looking up towards the sky when they're doing that squat. You want to keep that chin tucked. You could also tell them to find a marker on the floor, something to kind of look at while they're going through that squat to keep that spinal positioning, so that way we have a nice neutral spine throughout going through that back squat.